fridge still has
Her picture.
her picture with a side by side with a fruit bat. Yeah, Wendy, aka fruit bat, most unique looking dog we've ever had.
Basically, Texas is not made for winter.
No,
We
for
had our
sure.
little lanterns. I was coloring.
Steph got caught up on her coloring.
I started
I tried
coloring.
to get Steph into I call it White People Olympics, and
Scrabble?
board games, Scrabble. Welcome to which camera am I looking at? Diaries of a Dog Rescue, episode 4. How's it going?
It's going.
Yeah,
It's been a day.
yeah. It's hot here, so it's a lot of work with the dogs. Nobody wants to be outside, so trying to get what we need to get done has been a little bit tricky. But Diary of a Dog Rescue, episode 4. Don't forget, guys, please like the video right now before you forget. Subscribe.
Just start liking
Just
it.
like it. Just like it. Subscribe.
Before you
comment
even
after.
know if you're going to like it, just like it.
Yeah, trust
Trust
me.
us.
It'll be good. Anyway, so we left off, I believe, in December. So last we were talking, Steph and I were struggling a little bit to find our footing, balancing work, me being the stay-at-home dad with the pups for the most part, and starting to get frustrated at this point because we're realizing that in Texas, with where we're at, it's a lot of established families. And it's really difficult to find fosters. So at this point, we're doing that drive to California every 2 months, pretty much to check on fosters. And finally, which is something, if you've been following us for a while, you know that Steph and I do, we snap. And we decide to go rescue all of the dogs and put ourselves in a hole.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't as bad.
Initially.
We've done a lot worse now.
Well, it's funny
'Cause we have
looking
the
back
space.
looking back at some videos, because we obviously have to, relive all of this in order to tell you guys the stories of some of these dogs. But some of the videos that we came across, it's like, oh man, we have 4 separate rotations.
I know.
Like, poor us. Like,
Oh
oh
my
man,
gosh.
it's so tiring. I'm like,
So at this point in December, January, February, March, I think is what we're going to cover here. We start to go a little crazy. And I think it all starts, and you guys might see me look down at my phone. We've rescued over 600 dogs at this point, so it's a lot to get through. And we're not going to deep dive every single dog, just
No.
kind of run through our experience and introduce you guys some new pups and kind of what the thought process was. But first thing that happened in December was Mateo started a trial run.
was this with his first family?
Yeah. And this is cool because we actually don't announce trial runs. So I don't know how many of you actually knew that Mateo failed the bestest good boy damn near. Failed 2 trial runs.
Was it 2?
2. You want to tell people why he failed the 2? Or at least this first one?
Just 1.
No, it was 2. Mateo failed
That's
2
right.
trial
Mateo, the
runs.
goodest boy, failed 2 trial runs. And we don't tell people about trial runs because people get really emotionally invested. It's also like, I don't know, at what point I was like, it's just bad luck.
It's
Like,
bad
it's just bad
juju.
luck.
Yeah.
Don't announce trial runs. Just, if it works out, if it works out. If it doesn't
The only
work
time
out,
we do now is on Patreon.
yeah.
Which
It's
I'm
so,
still a little skeptical.
I don't like it. I don't like
It's a
it.
jinx.
I feel like we're jinxing it. And I feel like, just like us, people get really emotionally invested in some of the animals that we take on. So when it doesn't work out, people are like, what happened? Why didn't it work out? Those people suck.
Right.
So
We
it's
don't
just,
because look, not 90, 80% of the trial runs that don't work out, and the overwhelming majority of trial runs work out.
Yeah.
Because we do our homework prior. So don't get twisted. Like, I'd say 95% of trial runs work out anyway. But out of that 5%, 80% of the time, it's usually just not a good fit. And it's pretty valid. So we don't want people attacking those potential adopters because, the point
you can
of
find
the trial
anyone
run,
on social media. So
yeah, like imagine if Shadow went and failed a trial run. Like,
Oh,
of course,
God.
it'd be game over. So
yeah, they would have
there's
to
a reason we
move
do
out of the
this.
country.
Mateo, with his first family, though, he goes on his trial run. So really nice family.
Yeah.
Husband, wife, they had 2 kids, no other dogs at the time.
Nope.
I don't think. So the mistake they made, tactical mistake here. We're very big on our rules. And I know it bores everyone to death and everyone wants to avoid the rules. And you take in this dog.
Yeah, and everyone's excited. It's a new dog.
get
They
it.
want
I
to
get it.
love and coddle. And, we get it.
But we are very stringent on our rules and what you need to do. And
Right.
keeping the structure and routine the same the first week, especially because it makes things a very smooth transition.
Right.
It keeps things like this from happening. So like day 1, we get a picture of Mateo in bed with the girls, sleeping in the bed, running the house. And German Shepherds can become protective of the home.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he became protective over the kids. Like those were his
yes.
kids. And so he would follow little girls into the yard. He was sleeping in bed with them. And we told them like, hey, just make sure he's sleeping in his crate. You know, if he wants to jump in bed with the girls, like, haha, it's so cute. Take a picture. Okay, let's get down now, Mateo.
I don't think, yeah, he never went down.
So
Never went down, never went back in his crate.
yeah. So it was a week of that. And oh no, I think it was like a 10-day trial run.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
He ended up actually getting adopted.
He actually got it.
technically.
Yeah.
But it was really quick. I don't count it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, within 7 days, they're like, we love him. We want to sign
Because he's
adoption
perfect.
paperwork. And he was with them for probably a month. I think it was
3
all of
weeks, yeah.
December because Duke and I went back
Mhm.
for Christmas, I believe, or
Mhm.
during the holiday season.
Yeah.
We went
worked
back
it into
home.
a transport.
Yeah, we went back home to visit family and to do our regular transport and see fosters. And as we are coming back,
Mhm.
we get a text message that Mateo bit grandma.
Mateo bit grandma.
And the story goes that grandma allegedly that grandma came into the home and the girls were excited to see grandma like grandkids usually are, and they were jumping and screaming, and grandma picked one of the kiddos up, and the child was screaming excited to see grandma, and I don't think Mateo could decipher whether that was a happy scream or I am screaming I don't know this person. So Mateo jumped off of the couch and allegedly bit grandma.
I say allegedly, just because obviously that's something that's very serious that
Right.
we've actually never had happen in the rescue.
Yeah.
During a trial run, and bites are no joke.
Right.
Like confirmed bite, that's a dog that's staying with us forever. So ask for
Mhm.
pictures and kind of details, Spider,
Yeah.
on what happened. And the
We
story
never-
went, we never got a picture,
Yeah.
which is very odd because they said she had to go to the urgent care.
Yeah.
So they refused to send a picture.
Yeah. But they said
And
she said
then-
that he never broke skin.
The story then changed to he never broke skin, to he air snapped, to he jumped off the couch.
Yeah, it was just
really
a lot.
odd. I think Mateo was probably weary of the grandma.
Yeah.
Maybe he gave her a growl or something like that, and they had a panic attack.
Or maybe grandma said that Mateo bit
Or
her.
maybe grandma said it.
Like,
I really don't know.
so we just never got evidence of that. So we
was
were
odd.
driving back from California. Like we were both so stressed because like Duke said, nothing like this has ever happened in the rescue. So we called Leify, who had boarded and watched Mateo multiple times for us at this point. Yeah, one of our trainers. And so she ran over and picked him up for us because at that point, it is a
Well,
not
it's
it,
liability.
well, it's not well, technically he's been adopted. Like he's not a liability to us as a rescue, but they were frantic. We wanted everyone to calm down. We didn't want anyone to do anything out of, being upset or emotions or anything like that. So anyways, she picked him up and Mateo came back with us. And so he was with us for a few months until, we found his second family. And are we going into that now?
Yeah, you might as
Okay,
well.
might as
It's a
well.
little bit further down the line, but
So-
we realized that Mateo apparently doesn't like older white women.
Well, no, I'm talking about his second trial run.
Oh yes.
So his second trial run, also phenomenal family. Mateo, like first day, jumps into the pool, is swimming around, doesn't want to get out of the water. They have
3 other resident dogs. I
three
think.
other resident dogs. They have teenage kids. All the kids love Mateo. He's like, jumping on the couch. And all of a sudden he gets fixated on their little French bulldog.
Prey drive.
And his prey drive kicks in like on the 3rd day. It wasn't initially like everyone was out. Everyone was having a good time. And then all of a sudden, because that was his second meet that we did with them.
Yeah.
And first meet all went great. Second meet went great. And then like 3rd day in, he starts going after their French bulldog, like to the point that if she moved, he's like, I'm gonna go get you.
Yeah.
And so,
And Mateo did have high prey drive.
yeah. And we, because the meets went so well and his prey drive never kicked in while we were there.
Yeah.
We thought, okay, well, this Frenchie is like kind of a bigger Frenchie.
Well,
the Frenchie was like 35
Yeah.
pounds.
I
We're
mean,
like,
dog
okay.
dynamics are tough. That's why we do the trial run.
Yeah.
That's the point, to see if the
And that's why we do these meet and greets and we have these rules in place on like rotating dogs. But so they told us, they're like, hey, it's not going to work out. We're like, totally get it.
Yeah.
That's why we do these trial runs.
That's
so
one of the valid reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So we picked him up and then he was with us for a few months. And then we'll go into, later on down the line of his family. But his family, just guys, just know this, like if you are running a rescue or if you have a dog that you are trying to rehome, if the dog has a bite history, you have to legally disclose that. And just know that that dog could always be a liability for you because you adopted out a dog that allegedly, or in some cases,
we
did bite
still
someone.
have to bring it up just because they said it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though we don't have any paper trail, there was no
Don't believe
evidence. There was no evidence that he actually bit someone.
Yeah, it's still
We had to disclose that to the potential adopters. And also, because this even came up, we weren't going to place Mateo into a home with young children.
He also went to training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
a lot of bases had to be covered because of it.
So, anyways.
But anyway, during this transport, we did go a little nuts. So
did we?
We ended up rescuing Gurgi.
Yep.
AKA Eileen.
Yep.
Why was that her name?
Because she leaned to one side. She had a gimp leg.
She had a gimp leg. Eileen. And then we ended up naming her Gurgi because she made gurgly little sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eileen, though, is so incredibly sweet. I love that dog.
She's a good girl.
Yeah. Very sweet little pitty. Ended up finding a great family with younger couple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Younger couple, no other dogs. She has to be the only dog in the house, but it's a perfect setup for her.
Well, it's crazy too. I remember that meet going. We brought 3 dogs, I think, to that meet, and one of them was the shepherd puppy we had.
Yeah.
One of them was a shepherd puppy, and then we had another. Was it Chase? Can't remember. Another really gorgeous adoptable dog.
We brought Gordon.
Gordon, a black lab.
Yeah.
That's right. So we have a lab, we have a German Shepherd puppy, and then we have Gurgi. Insert Gurgi B-roll.
Yeah.
No offense. I love Gurgi. Gurgi was my favorite out of the 3, but I was like, dang.
Yeah.
This is not going to be
like you have a lab, you have a German Shepherd puppy, and then you have a
Gurgi.
A lowrider pitty that's reactive on leash.
Yeah, that was the other thing. She was the only one that wasn't good with dogs. The other 2 were, and they fell in love with her.
We're like, oh my God, it was meant to be.
Yeah. They ended up shooting us a text a few months later. They were like, no, it's great. Like, this is our reason to avoid our neighbors. Like, we just tell them to stay away. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went in, we got Eileen.
Yep. We got
Maybell Pebbles.
Yeah. And those 2 stayed in California.
Yeah.
And went into foster homes. And so did Eileen actually at that time.
Yeah, and Heidi.
Oh, that's right.
Heidi was a senior female German Shepherd with a massive mash. She was dropped off with it.
Yeah.
And she stayed in California with foster to adopt, I think, as well.
Yep.
And that didn't end up working out.
No.
Yeah. And a lot of this early on is why we don't do out of state.
Yeah.
Because we want to be close by. It's just,
if things happen, and Heidi was also like an extreme medical case. She had to have a huge mammary tumor removed. So even though we have volunteers and fosters in place in California, like I know that we could call someone there and be like, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, pretty please. Like, we are not there. Someone would help us, but we hate not being able to just get in the car and go help if needed. And so, whether it's micromanaging or not, we want to be able to be as hands-on as possible and give our fosters, our dogs, everything that we have. And we can't do that if we're, a 25-hour car ride away, because we can't just jump on a flight and leave the kiddos here, to go.
I was going to say, you guys will notice early on, there was, our I don't know if it was our system wasn't as smooth, but there was more trial run foster issues, because it almost never comes up now, like the last 3 years, because we are so hands-on and so close. Doing California, you can't check in daily with people.
Right.
It just, it got way too tricky. And, I think people sometimes don't like all the rules we have in place because it feels easy, when you have an easier dog and you start to let up. So being hands-on and just personally fostering 99% of our dogs now, obviously less issues. So that's why we switched to that. But nonetheless, get back to Texas. And it was one morning, it would have been Wendy was the first one, I think.
It was in January.
Yeah. So I was on the toilet.
Literally.
In the morning, literally. And, like I said,
sends me a text of this
dog. We're getting frustrated at this point. Yeah.
He sends me a text of this dog and he goes, we need to get this dog.
Today.
And I was
She's
like,
red listed.
awesome. I look up the dog, and dog's in San Antonio, which is 4.5 hours away, give or take. And I'm like, okay, I don't think we have our pull rights there, but she's adoptable, which is crazy because she was paralyzed. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll go there. I'll fill out all the paperwork that's needed for our pull rights, but maybe they'll just let me adopt her. And so at this point, Duke stayed behind with the dogs because it was very, very last minute. It was like, all right, one of us has to go. Yeah. And so I drove to San Antonio, and I get there, and they had put down that she had been shot because she had this gaping hole on her back end. And it turns out it was just an abscess that had opened up and ruptured from a pressure sore because she favored that side when she laid. And so I get to her and I call Duke, and I was like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing.
Hi, you wanna go for a little walk? You're okay, sweet girl. Okay. You're okay, girl. You're okay.
Like, this poor dog. I guess no, they didn't put down that she was paralyzed.
No,
they had
you
down
showed up and you realized she was paralyzed.
Yep.
They said gunshot victim.
They said gunshot victim, but they said having a hard time bearing weight.
Mm-hmm.
Some wording like that. I'm like,
Wendy could not walk at all. Both back legs were totally paralyzed.
I mean, she was dragging her legs, and I was like, oh man. I called. I was like, this is a paralyzed dog. Like, are we able to physically care for a paralyzed dog right now? And I was like, I can't leave her here. Like, well, this is happening. Like, she's coming in the car. And so I started the paperwork. And because I was like in the middle of filling out the paperwork for the rescue's pull rights there, they would not let me adopt her. They're like, well, you already signed up as a rescue, so now we can't just let you adopt her. And it was this whole thing. I was probably hanging out in their office for like 3 hours because they also wanted to spay her, and they wouldn't release her without spaying her. I said, guys, she is paralyzed. Like, I understand there's protocols in place at shelters for a reason, but I'm pretty sure your medical team can look at this dog and say, okay, she can go to this rescue. Yeah. Like, we have all of her paperwork. We have the references. She's going straight to a vet when she gets back to Dallas. So after going back and forth with the San Antonio Animal Shelter, they're like, all right, we'll release her to you. We got in the car, and she has this like cute little face. She looked like a fruit bat. That was her little nickname. Fruit bat.
Actually, on the fridge still has
her picture
with a side by side with a fruit bat. Yeah, Wendy, aka Fruit Bat, most unique looking dog we've ever had.
I wish we would have done a DNA test on her.
For sure, the most personality outside of Sandy. Yeah, I think Sandy's about as close as it gets to personality.
Yeah, I mean, there was a running joke that Wendy never slept.
No, she was a vampire.
Yeah,
we'd walk out at like 2 a.m.
to like go get a glass of water or something.
Sitting cross-pawed.
Yep, just
staring, judging
you.
And she would always bark if Steph and I hugged. If Steph and I touched or hugged in front of her, she would start barking at us.
She would do it. Jealous. She would do it if she was in another room, and we would laugh. And so even now, unfortunately, Wendy has passed away. We'll get through all. She got adopted. Great. She had she actually learned to walk again and run. Mm-hmm. But even sometimes now, and it's been, we rescued her 4 years ago, we'll hug and Duke will whisper, there's a Wendy out there barking right now. Because that's just her personality. She was just such a special dog. There's never going to be another dog like Wendy for sure.
She was. But a lot of physical therapy went into Wendy, getting her to that point. And then her foster mommy, who ended up adopting her, Sarah, gets all the credit there.
Oh, yeah.
For bringing it home. Although, she had carpet, so that's she had a little bit of help. Okay, we didn't.
Look, she was kind of using those back legs. I remember she was wobbly.
She was.
But then one morning, oh man, Sarah sent us a video. I remember specifically the video. I think her husband was
in the
watering the backyard, and they were throwing a tennis ball or some sort of ball, and Wendy just like zooms by, and I was like, this dog is running now. Yeah.
Very happy.
So yeah, and then they all ended up moving to New Hampshire on like, I think it's like 9 acres or something crazy up there. And Wendy lived out her days there. Yeah. And it's just like a beautiful ending.
Sanctuary.
Yeah. They're building Wendy's wildflower trail. So they're planting wildflowers through this little trail. It's really sweet.
It was very sweet. Yeah. And then we had the great winter. The great Texas winter of 2020.
2021.
Was 2021? No, 2020.
No.
Oh, hold on. Fact check.
21. Yeah. Fact check. I got
21?
Yes, it was February 2021.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I
I don't know. Okay, well, I guess. Yep, February 2021. You're right.
Basically, Texas is not made for winter.
Yeah, the city's handled it terribly. This was when the power went out for like a week. We had rolling blackouts. We were actually offering to drop off groceries for elderly neighbors at this point. And mind you, my car was trashed, right? It was stolen in LA before we left.
Right.
We had got it back at this point, but the thing didn't run. Engine was stripped.
Yeah.
Pointless. So we had Steph's little sports car.
And he says little sports car. It's a Durango. It was a Dodge Durango, but it was like an SRT Durango.
It was a real
little sports car.
piece of junk.
I loved that car.
Anyway.
So fast.
Yeah, so I remember it was the first few days in, we had seen a bunch of neighbors were asking, blankets, groceries, blah, blah. Is it safe to go outside? And I've driven in snow all my life. I was like, I don't know. I'll go find out. Steph was pissed.
Yeah, because I know what he was doing. He was like slipping and sliding all through the roads there.
Yeah, it was empty. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Nobody was on the road.
Well, I don't think anything was really even open.
No, there's places open.
Okay.
At least gas stations, convenience stores. But no, it was a blast. I mean, you could imagine there's like 3 other cars out on the road, and yeah, it's a little bit.
I will say this: like, there were a lot of people whose like pipes froze over and burst. Like, people didn't have electricity.
No,
it was 7 or 8 degrees. It was bad for a lot of people. Thankfully, we just had the rolling blackouts where they're like, okay, you're going to get an hour of electricity. So like warm up your food, do laundry, whatever it is that you need to do, take a hot shower, and then we're shutting it back off.
Yeah.
So at least they would let us know, like, it was rolling blackouts, but there was a lot of people that had a really hard time that winter. We had our little lanterns. I was coloring.
Steph got caught up on her coloring.
I tried
to get Steph into I call it White People Olympics. And
Scrabble?
board games, Scrabble. Yeah.
I was like, this is really boring.
Yeah. One day I'll get Steph on board with White People Olympics one day. Yeah.
Cornhole?
Yeah, where are my cornhole people out? Comment below. It's a great game. Yeah, see?
We play cornhole all day. It's just throwing poop bags over the fence.
Yeah. I guess that's a different way.
Context. We throw it over the fence into another yard where then we collect the poop and throw it away. So we just don't.
Everybody calm down.
We're not littering on our own property.
But yeah, we basically lived in our onesies during that time. It was a good time.
But some of the dogs got to experience snow.
Yeah, a lot of the dogs actually had a blast.
Yeah.
We had some cute videos of Wendy and Mateo. We had the pup. What was his name? Finn? Finn? Was that his name? The little German Shepherd pup?
Oh, yeah.
We had him at the time.
Yep. That was not fun. That was not fun because Finn could not go outside and he was a puppy and he was pooping everywhere.
Yeah, I mean...
I did not have a good time with Finn.
Him and Mateo were really cute.
Yeah, they were.
Steph did a lot of the poop cleaning, so I
do most of the poop cleaning. Let's get serious.
I said most. Okay, easy. So we get through winter.
The winter of 2021.
And then before we do this transport coming up here in February, we actually had rescued Cody.
So Cody came from the Palm Valley Animal Shelter. He was probably 6 to 8 months old. The shelter, it was another one of those situations where, this shelter doesn't have a medical staff there. They do kind of what they can with the funds that they have for that city shelter. And the notes said he was knuckling.
Not great.
Come to find out, he was also paralyzed. He had dragged his body so bad that the top of his paws were completely open. You could see the bone was exposed. And we get him, and he's just the sweetest little boy. He is so sweet. Yeah, he was in pain. We get him and we take him to the emergency room because we see the condition that he's in. And we did an x-ray. And I don't think we've ever dealt with something like that since then. But he had
fragments.
Yeah, he was shot. He was shot in the spine and there was fragments everywhere. And I think it was like 2 vertebrae were completely destroyed.
It had severed, punctured a vertebrae, and it was that spinal fluid that was leaking into his body.
Yeah.
So he was dying slowly.
It was so awful. We already had a foster set up for him, and she met us at the vet And she said goodbye too, because she was emotionally invested in his story. She later fostered a few more dogs for us. That's how we connected, though. We connected with her through Cody because she saw his video on the Palm Valley Facebook page. But he was brutal, man. That was such a hard case, because here we are getting a 6 to 8 month old puppy that we thought, okay, he's knuckling, we could put him in a wheelchair and rehab, and we're thinking Wendy, and it was like one of the biggest heartbreaks.
It's always really
I think about that
hard
dog a lot.
in rescue, and it's not rational, but it's really hard in rescue when we take a dog like that in and it feels like we don't have a shot from the start.
Right.
With hospice cases, at least the silver lining is that, okay, we have a few weeks, a few months.
Right.
We can evaluate quality of life, make them comfortable, let them know they're loved in their home. With medical dogs, where it's an immediate uphill battle, and within 24 hours you've lost, it feels like a lose. It feels like you let the dog down.
Yeah, and
Like,
honestly,
last experience for them, and it just sucks.
yeah, it sometimes feels like that when we share these dogs on social media.
Mm-hmm.
When
It feels
we're like,
the
hey
community down
guys,
too.
yeah, it's like, hey guys, we're taking this dog to the emergency room. Like, we want to rally around this dog. People are donating for their medical, and then they start to go downhill, and you're like, crap, here we go. Like, we are gonna let all these people down that also got emotionally invested in this animal, and it's really hard. I think over the years have learned to make certain calls for dogs just through experience. And then there are some dogs that you're like, okay, there's definitely a fighting chance here.
Yeah. You learn to give and take, and how much you want to push a dog, and what outlook looks like. Say you have 3 things to work on from a medical standpoint. Okay, we fixed problem 1 and 2, can't get through problem 3,
Right.
and you're just extending pain. Or if it's very clear cut, like, hey, it's these 2 things, we can battle, like everything is looking good. So it's looking at prognosis and outlook after the fact.
Right.
With Cody, obviously there was no fixing that.
Yeah.
He was just in terrible pain, dying slowly.
Yeah.
So
I think literally every single dog that has come in through our rescue, whether it be medical, senior, behavioral, puppies, we have learned something new with every single case.
Well, and Cody was kind of our first experience, I think, with what we were about to get into. And again, we've seen a lot of rough cases in California. Texas, there's just more rural areas,
right?
Especially out by the border.
And everything in between, really. Texas is so big.
The dogs we've taken in out by the border, though, really rough.
Yeah.
But that was kind of our first experience, like a shock to the system a little bit of like, man, we're in for it here.
Well, and I think also because I hate when I see these comments where it's like, oh, what's going on with Texas? Why does Texas treat their dogs like that? And it's not Texans. Like, those crappy people are everywhere. People also have to realize the harsh weather that Texas and the South
environment
get, right?
Plays a different role. There's more land out here. Yeah.
Right.
Very different. And a lot of like the Demodex dogs you see, I think people new to rescue, that's like this terrible, brutal thing. And like, Demodex is
like, it's uncomfortable, and
it's uncomfortable, but it's not brutal. I always cringe when I see rescues trying to raise like $10,000 for a Demodex dog. It's like, dude, that's medicated shampoo.
Right.
Like, that's I'm sorry, I just pissed off a lot of rescues right now.
Well, and there's like Logan, right? Well, and we can dive into that.
Septic, but
right.
That's different.
But he, like, there's Demodex and then there's scabies, and that's 2 totally different things. We'll dive into that later. But
if that infection goes internal and then you go septic, that's Demodex scabies.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Cody was really, really hard. And that was, I think, the first dog I've been a part of in the rescue, because you had Abigail prior and maybe some others, but that's the first dog that I had been a part of where it was a loss right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that one was really tough. So after that, Steph and I doubled down, which again is something, we do at this point: lose a life, save another.
Yeah.
So we actually went to California. It was in February for another transport. We got to pick up Floof, Thea, the bestest good girl. I have that great picture of her and Helen outside of like Buc-ee's or something.
Yeah.
But we go to California and we bring back Priscilla, I think was one of them. We picked her up. I don't think picked up Heidi at this point, but we had checked on her, and we actually did. Oh no, that's right. We did a meet and greet.
Yep.
With a family. So we did the meet and greet with the family. Everything went great. It was an older lady. Husband had passed away. I believe it was just her in the house. So we did the home check, the meet and greet. whole out of state kind of adoption protocol. And Heidi started her trial run there with her.
Yep.
And we head back with Priscilla. Liam came with us per usual, and
Yep.
a few other dogs, I'm sure. I think that was all we did that trip.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look back at.
But as we're driving home, we had been notified about a few dogs. One was Leila,
Yeah.
who was the epitome of no mama left behind.
Yeah.
Like overbred mama, the face of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a little healer.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name?
It was a girl.
It was a girl. What was her name? I'm trying to remember. I know.
Well,
So
the thing is that like there's the shelter name, there's what we named them, and then there's the name that the DU family gives them. So, God, I feel awful. I don't remember.
Oh man, I got you on one.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to go back. She was also adopted pretty quick. She was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She was terrified of me for a little bit. She definitely had a thing with taller men where she was terrified. But Steph, being the psycho she is, as we're driving home from 30 hours straight of driving, had lined up transport and actually a flight. There was a guy, Wayne, who, it was really cute actually. He's a retired pilot.
Yep.
And him and his daughter, that was their bonding time. So he was helping rescues, flying dogs, like high-risk dogs, to rescues, doing transport in the air, and it was his way of bonding with his daughter because his daughter was very into rescue. Super cute. Anyway, so we're driving 25, 30 straight hours, coming back, nonstop, no sleep, and we stop at this private airport because Steph had lined up this transport to rescue Leila and this little healer girl. And they land, and we get the healer out. Obviously very sweet. She pees herself. It was like very apparent that she's very uncomfortable around men early on.
Yeah.
So Steph took point on her, and then they go to get Leila, and they're having a hard time getting her out. So I get Leila out, and holy,
it was.
I've never
way
to this
worse.
day, I've still never seen anything like it. To give you guys an idea, down the line, our vet, no, not our vet, it was Texas A&M. Contacted our vet. I think it was a school that had reached out, vet school, that actually wanted to examine Leila.
Yeah.
Because of how bad it is. They'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
She had over 70 masses inside and outside of her body. Leila, outside of just being bred into the ground, I cannot imagine watching that happen to a dog. You're talking about years.
Yeah.
I mean, years of watching this develop. It's like they had her locked in a room and just bred her over and over and over again until she literally could not anymore.
Yeah.
And then threw her out.
Yep.
It was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So we get Leila, and I mean, it's obvious, we get her to the vet right away, but we know at this point.
Yeah, we're not going to have much time.
So we get her to the vet. She's examined. We get her as comfortable as we possibly can. And Leila, man, like just soaked up every second.
Yeah.
I mean, like after the first night, she slept like a baby, but she was the absolute sweetest dog. Yeah. Like any kind of affection you would give her, she'd give it back tenfold.
Yeah. And I know some of you probably just saw the little images of Leila pop up.
It's a lot to look at.
And you're like, how did these people just not cross her over right then and there?
Oh.
Look, believe me, that went through our minds.
Yeah.
But if you were to meet Leila, like her tail was wagging.
They've seen the clips at this point.
She was such a happy dog. And we didn't want her life to end on such a crappy note, like what she knew her whole life. We were trying to erase everything that had happened to her 10 years and give her either a few days, a few weeks, a month, if that's all we got with her, and make every single day special for her. So every single day.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we had 2 or 3 weeks.
But mind you, I mean, we're inserting the B-roll. So yeah, Leila was happy.
Yeah.
Like Leila understood she was with a family finally. She was getting to experience
a comfortable bed. Do you remember how she used to sleep?
For the first time. She actually played with Walter.
Yeah.
At one point she would do Zooms. She learned how to play fetch with the ball.
Yeah.
It was like having a brand new puppy that was new to the world. She didn't understand anything. And within a few days, she was just the happiest dog on the planet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was, oof.
Yeah.
That was awesome to watch her come out of her shell and just accept being loved.
Yeah.
But obviously, eventually she did go downhill, and it was the same day. It wasn't,
Yeah, we didn't.
she goes downhill. And, with some dogs where it's less medical, like a hospice dog, we kind of have a 48-hour rule where you're evaluating, like, okay,
sometimes
dog
they
has
have a
had
bad day.
5 good days, 1 bad day, 2 bad days, and then you're looking at different things. But with her, we knew, like, once things started to go downhill, they were going to progress rapidly. So we moved immediately.
Right.
I picked her up, jumped into the trunk of the car, and we got right to the vet.
Yeah. And sometimes we see that happen a lot with dogs that are hospice, where they come into our care and they have a soft bed and they have some pain management and they're eating good food and they're getting loved. Yeah. And it's like they get a second win. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, they're making a turn for the better and they're feeling good. And that does wear off. Reality does set in at some point, but we do get that like bump of endorphins and dopamine going, and they're like, yeah, let's do some zooms, like right? But unfortunately,
and with Leila, it didn't get to the point where she was in terrible pain. I remember going into her room to get her out, and like you said, she was so lively all the time, and I went to get her and she didn't want to get up. She was slouched over looking at me, and I laid down with her and I got her favorite ball out and I was trying to get her to play. And it was within 5 seconds I knew. Yeah. She didn't want to move. So we took her in, and our vet, we're very close with our vet. We've been allowed back kind of in the back room. I think we're one of 2 rescues that's allowed to do that. So they were all in there with us.
It was emotional for everyone involved.
Oh man. Yeah. Everyone had their hands on her, and she left surrounded by people that loved her. Yeah. So she had a really good run, even though it was a short time. But Leila, like, if there's a dog that set the tone for no mama left behind, it was Leila.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very sweet dog. So Leila was rough towards the end there. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think, after that. I should backtrack just a little bit, I guess, because on our way, as crazy as that road trip was, coming back from a 25-30 hour straight drive, rescuing Leila, the little healer, bringing Priscilla back, we found those dogs on the side of the road. Yeah. And it was cold as shit.
It was so
And we waited probably 2 hours for animal control.
Yeah, so we had the SUV. I remember who we were bringing back now.
The Sprinter van.
It wasn't Priscilla. Or maybe it was.
No, it was Priscilla.
No.
It was Priscilla. Nope. I have the video.
You have the wrong video then, sir.
No,
we brought back Gurgi,
Priscilla.
and the Chi-Chis. The 2 Chi-Chis.
Okay, well, we're going to get way too scattered trying to keep this.
Well, whatever. We had a ton of dogs. We had the SUV, and I remember because we had the 2 little Chihuahuas in like a crate in the middle. But so our car was packed. I think we were riding with like 4 dogs in the SUV, and we're driving on the highway, and I'm like, babe, I think I just saw 3 dogs eating a carcass.
Mm-hmm. And they were.
And I get off on the next exit, and I like do a little turn, and I'm driving down this road, and sure as hell, they're sitting there eating like a dead deer on the side of the road. And we literally open the door, and all 3 dogs just run to us.
They were very sweet.
Like, damn it.
I know. But literally can't fit them in the car. And
we were in Wise County. So we were an hour and 40 minutes away from home. Yeah. So we're like, all right, look, if someone's out looking for them and we take them to our shelter, their owners are never going to find them. And they all looked healthy.
They weren't in bad shape.
No.
So we wait like 2 hours for animal control. Yeah. Animal control handled it terribly. But anyway, they have to wait out a stray hold. So we made sure at least they got to the shelter. Yeah. And all 3 ended up being reclaimed by the owner.
No, just the older Australian Shepherd, and then the 2 smaller ones got rescued.
Rescued or adopted? I thought it was public adoption.
No.
So rescued. Yeah.
Yeah. And that shelter is known for like sending dogs out of state, I believe. So they saw this cute little terrier and this cute like husky mix. They're like, okay. So they got tagged really quick. Yeah. At that point.
Yeah, I'm glad the older guy got home though.
Yeah.
He looked like he was in good shape. Probably a working dog out in Wise County. Yeah. And just having an afternoon snack. But that freeway is brutal.
Yeah, I'm glad it's 80 mile an hour highway. So they had no business eating a carcass on the side of the road. No. So after Leila,
obviously really rough stretch there, but we did get some good news. And that was Hannah Banana. Hannah Banana had been on a trial run with Sonia, who has ended up being one of the best adopters we've ever had all time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, Sonia, I think I told Sonia this. She scared the shit out of me originally. Hannah is my girl. Kind of going back to the interview we did, I told you guys we had a black female German Shepherd who was aggressive.
Yeah.
And Hannah was a black female German Shepherd who was human aggressive and dog aggressive.
Yep.
And to this day, outside of Simba, the hardest behavioral dog we've ever taken in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of work for her to bond. She took to me fairly quick, but then to get her through everything else, to get her to like other dogs, bonding with Steph,
right,
socializing her in public, there was so much work that went into Hannah. And Sonia, very structured military background, but she hadn't had experience with that breed. And that worried me terribly, but she was so insistent on it. And she was someone that Steph worked with. Yeah. Which was another thing. I was kind of like, oh, like it's just
I was like,
person
oh,
that wants
I'm gonna have to
with you.
I was like, I'm gonna have to see this person in the office, and
this is not gonna be good. But she was very adamant about it. No other dogs in the house. Yeah. She had 2 cats. Yep. I think she still has 1. Yep. I think the other passed away recently.
Well, she has those 2 kittens now. She fostered failed 2 kittens.
But I was nervous. And Sonia absolutely killed it. Hannah bonded with Sonia. And Sonia is absolutely her person. I know that everyone says they'd die for their dog and they'd leave their boyfriend for their dog or girlfriend for their dog. Sonia would. Sonia would actually die for her dog. She has left previous relationships for her dog. Yeah. Because Hannah doesn't bond with everyone. Like Sonia, like her world revolves around Hannah. Yeah. So nothing but respect and love for Sonia and Hannah there. But Hannah's living a great life, and they actually live like 5 minutes down the street now. Sonia and her boyfriend now moved in like 5-10 minutes down the road. Yep. And they have Hannah, and they actually have another one of our dogs we'll get to later. Yeah.
Well, and shout out to Keith too, because he put in a lot of work with Hannah
to go through that process.
Oh yeah, like
it was a lot. I mean, Hannah was trying to take his face off.
Yeah, Sonia let him know, like, hey, if we're gonna be living together, or we're gonna be dating, like, Hannah needs to bond with you. Like, this is the deal. It's a package deal, and Hannah's not an easy dog. And the second dog she got from us is, he was a puppy at the time, but he's a Malinois, so he's a tough breed too. So shout out to Keith for like going through the process. He went to training classes with Hannah. I think they actually did a weekend alone together where he like took Hannah for the weekend where Sonia was not there, so that they can have their bonding time. So, it was a whole thing to make that happen. And so Sonia was like, well, if you want to be with me, Hannah has to approve first. So yeah, I don't know. It's shout out to both of them. They're both crazy.
No, they're both awesome. But Hannah getting adopted was massive. Yeah. That was huge. Obviously, it opened up a spot at the time, but the bigger thing was I didn't think Hannah was ever going to get adopted. Yeah. Adopting out behavioral dogs. Steph and I talk about all the time. There's certain dogs we have here that have way less behavioral issues, like just being dog selective reactive, and they're with us 1 year, 2 years. Yeah. So Hannah, that's the last thing I saw coming, but man, like she found such a great home. Yeah. So we got that news, which was really awesome. We had Thea with us at this time. So Thea, Walter Helen, Priscilla, Finn, Mateo,
Wendy,
Gergie, Wendy, and we officially became the neighborhood quacks. So Priscilla, it was apparent early on, had some dementia or was declining mentally for sure. Yeah. I think it was pretty much doggy dementia from the onset.
Oh yeah. No.
She had been dropped off at same thing with a massive mass. Didn't look like she was bred. At least not terribly, but just a senior dog that was dropped off with a massive mass. Yeah. And right off the bat, she wasn't all there. And it started to go downhill fairly quickly. Yeah. I can't remember exactly how long she was with us, but, she had a comfortable life. And I like to think that she was there enough in moments where she knew she was safe and she knew she was with us. And Mateo was so sweet with her. Yeah. Mateo would lay down with her. He would clean her. Liam didn't like her, but Liam didn't like anyone. Yeah. But Mateo was really good with her. So once a day, at least, we would load up Priscilla into the wagon. We had a little red wagon, and we'd go for a walk with Thea and Priscilla or Mateo. and we'd walk around the neighborhood and be judged by the neighborhood golden retriever lab moms, which was a lot of fun. I'm sure they loved that. We had her in like little pajamas too to cover up the giant mass, but the mass was massive, so you could see the mass, very like blank stare, doggy dementia stare. And we'd cart her around in the wagon with a shepherd rot mix, or you know,
Or Teo.
Mateo, or we had Wendy out and we were doing PT stuff with a sling or a towel,
Or she was in her
and
wheelchair.
her legs were like wobbling around.
Yeah, we definitely stuck out like a sore thumb.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
I mean, we kind of stick out like a sore thumb in any neighborhood that we would be in. Let's get serious.
No,
I think our neighbors here initially thought that we were dog breeders or dog trainers because of how many dogs we were walking per day and like structured walks. And out here, I think we know like 2 or 3 people that walk their dogs, but everyone has, 5 acres or 10 acres or 20 acres. Everyone's like, why would I go walk my dog? They have 20 acres to run around in. So we just look like crazy people when we walk dogs around here.
Yeah. And Priscilla, obviously, dementia's rough, and it's so hard. I don't know what's more difficult, whether it's physically when a dog starts to fail or mentally. I feel like it's mentally.
Yeah, mentally for sure.
And we've had a few, but mentally it's tough because physically they could still look okay, where you're looking at quality of life and physically they look fine. But mentally it was to the point for her, and this was very brief, like towards the end, but it would be, obviously you have circling, but I mean like getting lost in corners, barking at walls, and then it was the night terrors, waking up screaming.
Yeah.
It's like she woke up and it was a high-pitched scream, like she had no idea she was, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And she would snap out of it for a second, and that's where I hope she understood she was there a little bit.
Right.
But that was heartbreaking.
I think for sure that was our first doggy dementia case.
At this point, we've had a lot, and we know those signs earlier, especially with Chihuahuas, little smaller dogs.
Yeah.
So kind of the progression. So it's like, okay, it gets to this point, we don't go past this point.
Right.
Priscilla, it got to that point, we didn't have experience with it.
We're like, she's still eating.
It was kind of circling was our first thing, but looking at it now, I'm sure we could have handled it better to let it not get to that point.
Yeah.
Because the full blown, waking up screaming, that was not okay.
Yeah.
So again, it's a learning experience. We've done this for a long time, but we started somewhere.
Yeah.
Everyone starts somewhere. And, Priscilla, I hope, and I think she was there a little bit at a time.
No,
and,
definitely.
She was very calm that last day when we took her in. She did kind of lean into us. So I think Priscilla knew.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's Priscilla. I think that kind of takes us through March. And at this point, we just are fully diving into rescue. And in March, I think you're getting ready to leave your office job.
I already had.
Had you left it when?
Yeah.
February?
Yeah, I think it was February.
So February, you're full-time remote now. Massive pay cut.
Yeah.
Props to you. Eyes get really big.
Damn it.
But I mean, that's the thing. That's why you leave that day job and all of a sudden rescue's moving.
Yeah.
And that was our goal. It's obviously really hard to do. You have to save up a lot of money and you have to not buy a lot of things.
Yeah, you have to be smart.
Your life and your money goes to this passion project. I think a lot of people don't realize that when they ask, how much we make or if we're hiring, and it's going to take a lot of your personal money, especially early on. Like you don't make a penny and have money in reserve because you're going to spend a lot of your own money. There was times we spent our own money on medical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you do what you have to do and you put yourself in these spot. That's with rescues. One thing that'll drive me nuts sometimes is a newer rescue that, 4 or 5 months in owes $30,000 in medical bills and they're begging for help.
Man,
because then you have vets that don't work with nonprofits because they have that. You have to be smart as a new rescue, and understand that, you're going to spend some of your own money and you better not get in over your head.
Yeah. That part is the most stressful part about rescue is, coming up with the funds.
I think outside of adopting dogs out.
Yeah. I think that part starting off is the most stressful part. It's how are you going to pay for X, Y, and Z? And what happens if an emergency occurs? A dog tears his ACL in your care. That's like $5,000. So as a rescue, you have to be very smart about the funds that you have in your bank account. How many dogs are under your care?
Yeah.
The emergency funds you have set aside just in case something happens.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the money in your account right now for the dog that you are looking at to rescue, do not rescue that dog. because
You
you are
fundraise to
well,
cover
you are
that
sitting
and bring it
there
back, yeah.
thinking that the people that are pledging, I pledge $5, I pledge $20, I pledge $100.
Expect about half of it.
A lot of people aren't going to
Yeah.
honor those pledges. So if you're seeing a post and you think, oh, I can definitely save that dog, it has $1,500 in pledges, consider that $500 in pledges, because people don't have to honor their pledge. People can
Well,
just say what they
so-
want to say.
Yeah, we're very strict on our vetting. Whether a dog is presenting with medical or not, everyone gets a full workup that's a minimum of $550, $600.
Yep.
And believe me, won't name names, but being in the back of our vet, we hear it every day. Did this rescue approve heartworm? Did this rescue approve the medication for the ear infection? No. Did this rescue approve blood work? No. X-rays? No.
Yep.
And it's infuriating because there should be a standard. Your dog should be vetted. So as a rescue, if you do not have the money in your account to rescue this dog and do proper vetting or deal with whatever medical you think is going on,
Like right off the bat.
do not pull that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. Because we like to go on tangents.
No, we'll wrap
obviously.
up later, because April gets crazy. We actually meet Dustin and Alicia. That's when we started working with them. And we pull some of our dogs that are still with us. So Diaries of Dog Rescue, episode 4 in the books. We'll see you guys for episode 5 in April of 2021. Yeah.
Yep. And then we'll probably, that whole episode will lead us into getting this property.
Yep.
And then from there,
Building out the sanctuary that we're still working on.
Yep. Hey, it's a work in progress. People have to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right.
Get close to the money.
Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
later, guys. See you next time.